Hey guys, what's going on? It's Matt Wenning at winningstrength.com. I wanted to just talk to you guys. We're doing a little bit of a different format on YouTube. And with that format change, will be different kinds of videos. We'll do more like this, just kind of talking. And then we'll post them, and then hopefully that'll help out with the channel. So this one is some of the things that I learned as a beginner strength coach. As a beginner strength coach, I was about 19. I had taken a year off from high school to go into college, and I had went down and done a job shadow with John Torine at the Indianapolis Colts. John Torine, for those of you that don't know, was Peyton Manning's strength coach, Edgerrin James strength coach, Ricky Williams strength coach, a lot of guys, Jeff Saturday. He had a lot of dudes that were Pro Bowl level, or actually iconic legendary figures in football, and his tenure there at the same team, which was around 15 years at the same team, which is nearly unheard of at the pros. Long story short, I walk in and I realize that John Torine is not only insanely smart, master's degree, he's also very tuned into nutrition, which was one of his big areas of focus for the athletes. So I learned at a young age, because I came in as a meathead weightlifter, that there was going to be a lot more facets to training than just going in and lifting weights. There's a whole plethora of different information that you need to know. So that was kind of a big shock to me, because I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to be a master at lifting weights. Well, not necessarily. A master of lifting weights will only get you so far with those particular parameters of working with athletes, etc. So as I drive home, I'm starting to realize that my education base, although I was already 7 years into training weights at a pretty high level, was not near what it needed to be a good strength coach, which was my overall goal, which was to be a guy like John Torine. So he gives me advice to go back home to Ball State, which at the time I had no idea was the top exercise science school in the country. Dr. Kramer, Dr. Newton, Dr. Kostel, Dr. Kwan. These guys were all at Ball State University at that one time. And so as I go back home and get applied for school, which I'll talk about that that's a whole nother different story. I go to apply for school, and the first thing that John Torine tells me to do is find the head strength coach at Ball State, which was Wade Russell, who works on the website now as one of the online strength coaches and directors of online strength training for you guys if you're interested in getting trained by a professional athlete. Wade Russell played for the Dolphins for 2 years in the 80s and became Ball State's first strength coach. So without that being said, he basically told me to go and talk to Wade and volunteer my time as much as I possibly could, because I needed more coaching hours in actually training athletes. Keeping in mind at this time I'm just a power lifter. So that was one of my biggest things that I think changed the trajectory of my career in my life, was the fact that Torine was good enough to tell me what I needed and didn't really sugarcoat it, that if I wanted to be a good coach, it was going to take more than just being a strong kid. Wade kind of agreed with the exact same thing and started having me help with different teams, the first team of which is one he didn't want to train, which was people that were in swimming. He hated the swim team. He didn't like the swim coaches at the time, and felt like it was a good idea for me to learn how to train in a sport that traditionally doesn't like to lift weights very hard. So what we do is I start designing weight training programs and looking up different articles, mostly by Dr. Kostel there at the university. I go talk to him. He hands me about 15 or 20 different research papers, and I start seeing tricep strength is related to swimming. So I start doing a lot of triceps on upper body day and show the swim coaches the actual data that had been found probably in the early 80s at that time. And we started doing a lot of rotator work, a lot of lat work, and a lot of hamstring work, a lot of stuff that the average college kid, or especially in swimming, are going to have issues with and not be fully developed. Fast forward into the next year of that, I became one of the first paid undergraduate strength coaches at Ball State. So keep in mind, I'm still in school for this, and now Ball State is actually paying me to work with the athletes. And then I have swimming, and I believe I have women's volleyball, and then I start assisting with football and with track. Not exact, but that's something of that nature. By the time I'm a senior, I have almost 10,000 hours of experience in the weight room, working summers when I can, working between classes when I can, doing everything I possibly can to gain more and more and more experience, which actually got me into my master's program. But the point being is, in the beginning, you have to realize that you're probably in something because you have a strength in a certain area, i.e. I was super strong. So in my area, I was already a 500-pound bencher. I was a world champion teenage weightlifter, and that gave me the kind of the push to want to get out of my comfort zone and go work with these athletes and go to school for this kind of stuff. Once that happened, everything started to fall into place. But the point is you have to be willing to go and try new things. You got to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. And you also have to be willing to understand that you have to be willing to learn things that maybe are not in your wheelhouse. And I'm not saying you have to be perfect. I know a lot about nutrition, but I don't know everything. I know a lot about, sports psychology, but I don't know everything. I know a lot about biomechanics. I have my master's degree in it. I know quite a bit about that. And you start to understand that, when you get higher educated and you start working your way through, it just starts to create and develop more questions more than answers. And so now, close to 25 years of experience in this field, I start to realize that I have more questions now than when I started, but compared to the average person, I'm much farther ahead, both in academics and experience, and that starts to raise your awareness of all these different areas. So if you're beginning out and you want to be a good strength coach and you're trying your best, don't be afraid to go learn from people that know more than you in certain areas. We have a huge ego issue, and trust me, I've been caught in that same scenario where I'm like, oh, fuck that, that stuff isn't needed. You don't need to understand any of that. And then it comes to bite me in the ass 3 to 5 years later. So my point being is always keep an open mind. Always make sure that you are trying to learn in areas that maybe have some resemblance of what you're trying to do for a full picture context. And then that will help you tremendously to develop yourself and also start to create new avenues and new windows of opportunity. So hopefully this helps you guys, beginner strength coaches, and see you guys at winningstrength.com. If you want to see examples of workouts, join Patreon, where we can show different tiers of different workouts that we do, all the way from over 50 to stabilizing bone mass and muscle mass loss, all the way to weight loss workouts, to busy like dads and mechanics and like heavy hard worker. And then we have like the optimize, which is the top tier of the stuff that we do at the gym for people that really are serious about training. So you have a lot of different ways that you can support winningstrength.com. We appreciate you guys watching, and tune in for more videos like this soon.